Welcome to my channel Accounting Elite. Today's lecture is on the topic Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, popularly known as GAAPs. Main learning outcome of the lecture is to know what GAAPs are and to learn the basic accounting concepts and conventions. It will also help us to understand the principles that helps in recording the transactions in the books of accounts. As we all know, the accounting is a language of the business. So, to make the language convey the same meaning to all the people, accountants all over the world have to develop certain rules. And these rules are known as GAAPs, that is, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. So, if we want to define, it means the common set of principles, standards, procedures that companies use to comply their financial statements. मीन्स ये वो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं, प्रोसीजर्स हैं जो कंपनी यूज करती हैं उनकी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को कंपाइल करने के लिए. सो बेसिक ऑब्जेक्टिव इज ये ट्रांसपेरेंट, कंसिस्टेंट एंड कंपेरेबल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बने हमारी. दैट इज द बेसिक ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द गैप्स. There are various types of GAAPs under the category concepts and conventions, and we will discuss all these one by one. The very first concept is the business entity concept. As the name suggesting, business entity concept says that business has a separate entity from its owners or the shareholders. So the basically बिजनेस एंटिटी कॉन्सेप्ट कहता क्या है? ये कहता है कि ओनर और शेयर होल्डर्स दे हैव द सेपरेट एंटिटीज. ओनर एंड शेयर होल्डर्स हैव द सेपरेट एंटिटी फ्रॉम द बिजनेस. मतलब क्या है इस बात का? दिस मीन्स कि बिजनेस एंड शेयर होल्डर्स दोनों अलग अलग हैं, दोनों एक दूसरे से अलग हैं. मतलब बिजनेस एंड ओनर हम इन दोनों को सेम ट्रीट नहीं कर सकते. बोथ हैव द सेपरेट एंटिटी. सो एनी ट्रांजेक्शन डन बाय द ओनर will be treated separately, and any transaction which is done by the owner on the behalf of the business, that will be treated separately. Now, there are certain implications of a business entity concept. The very first implication is separate accounting. What does it mean? That the personal finances of the owner as well as the business finances that are to be treated separately. मतलब बिजनेसमैन का पैसा और बिजनेस का पैसा ये दोनों अलग अलग चीजें हैं, हमें इन दोनों को मिक्स नहीं करना है. सिमिलरली जो ओनर के एक्सपेंसेस हैं और बिजनेस के एक्सपेंसेस हैं, हमें इन दोनों को मिक्स नहीं करना है. Right? This is what business entity concept says. Now second implication is the preparation of financial statements. क्योंकि दोनों separate entities हैं तो फिर जो business है उसकी statements हमें अलग बनानी पड़ेंगी और businessman अपनी जो transactions हैं उनको अलग से record करेगा, अपने personal finances को separately record करेगा. The third implication is regarding the liabilities. What does it mean? कि कोई भी liability अगर businessman incur करता है तो वो उसकी personal liability होगी. सिमिलरली अगर कोई भी लाइबिलिटी को जो बिजनेस है वो इनकर करता है तो वो बिजनेस की सेपरेट लाइबिलिटी होगी. दैट मीन्स एनी लाइबिलिटी विच इज इनकर्ड बाय द बिजनेस, लाइक कोई लोन ले लिया या हमने कोई डेट्स हैं हमारे, दीज आर कंसिडर्ड एज द ऑब्लिगेशन ऑफ बिजनेस इटसेल्फ एंड नॉट ऑफ द ओनर. Similarly, any profit which will be earned by the business, that will be of a business. So this is what business entity concept says. Similarly, it's about legal structure. When we talk about legal structure, that means business and owners are separate. So when we talk about legal structure, this means कि जो business entity concept है that will apply in all the cases. चाहे बिजनेस हम कहें कि वो सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप की फॉर्म में है, चाहे वो हम कहें कि पार्टनरशिप की फॉर्म में है, चाहे हम कहें कि वो एक कॉरपोरेशन या किसी भी और लीगल एंटिटी की फॉर्म में है. let's discuss one example for the business entity concept. This may, like agar if Mr. X used rupees 10,000 from the business account to buy a woodworking machine, this transaction is recorded as a purchase by the business entity and it will not be treated as a personal expense of, मतलब अगर वो business account से business machine खरीदने के लिए ही अमाउंट पैसा यूज करता है तो उसको हम बिजनेस का ही एक्सपेंस ट्रीट करेंगे, ये मिस्टर एक्स का पर्सनल एक्सपेंस जो है वो ट्रीट नहीं होगा. आई होप दिस एग्जाम्पल इज क्लियर टू यू. नाउ लेट्स मूव टू द सेकंड concept which is known as money measurement concept. Now what money measurement concept says? Money measurement concept says that all the transactions are recorded which can be expressed in monetary terms. What is the key word here? Monetary terms. What does it mean कि हम बिजनेस में वही ट्रांजेक्शन्स को रिकॉर्ड करेंगे, उन्हीं इवेंट्स को रिकॉर्ड करेंगे, उन्हीं एक्सपेंसेस को, उन्हीं इनकम्स को हम रिकॉर्ड करेंगे जिन्हें हम मॉनेटरी टर्म्स में एक्सप्रेस कर सकते हैं, राइट. सो व्हाट डज इट मीन कि जो ट्रांजेक्शन्स जो हो सकता है इंपॉर्टेंट हो बिजनेस के लिए बट हम उनको मॉनेटरी टर्म्स में एक्सप्रेस नहीं कर सकते, तो इन दैट केस वो हमारे जो हैं वो बिजनेस में रिकॉर्ड नहीं किए जाएंगे. सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑफ मनी मेजरमेंट कॉन्सेप्ट. सबसे पहले अगर हम मनी मेजरमेंट कॉन्सेप्ट की बात करते हैं तो हम जो बिजनेस ट्रांजेक्शन्स हैं उनको दो कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड करेंगे. वन इज मेजरेबल एंड सेकेंड इज नॉन मेजरेबल. व्हेन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट मेजरेबल, कोई भी हमने सेल करी है, रेंट पे किया है, सैलरीज करी है, कितनी सैलरी कितना रेंट, that is expressible, that is measurable in monetary terms. So these can be recorded because ये money measurement की category में आती है तो इनको हम business में record करेंगे. But there can be certain non measurable transactions. For example, हमारी कंपनी के एम्प्लॉयज कितने सेटिस्फाइड हैं, हमारे कस्टमर्स कितने सेटिस्फाइड हैं, हमारे ब्रांड की क्या रेपुटेशन है मार्केट में. We cannot measure this satisfaction or reputation in monetary terms. If we cannot, that means we cannot record this transaction in books of a account. So financial statements will only include the measurable items but not the non-measurable item. For example, company की reputation in the market is valuable but cannot be expressed in the terms of money. So it will not be recorded in the financial statement. So money measurement concept क्या कहता है कि सिर्फ वही transactions आप record कर सकते हो जो कि monetary terms में express कर सकते हैं और जो नहीं कर सकते उनको हमने financial statements में record नहीं करना. This is what money measurement concept says. Now next concept what we have is the going concern concept. Now what going concern concept says? Going concern concept says that business will continue its operation. Business will continue its operation indefinitely. So here keyword is indefinite continuity. Means जो business है it will continue its operation for the long period of time. Long period of time, or you can say for at least foreseeable future. Long period of time, what does it mean? This means that it is not going to wind up in the near future. अभी ये लंबा चलेगा business, ये near future में हम इसको बंद नहीं करेंगे. So ये concept इसी assumption पे based है. The next is implication. Implications, when we talk about going concern concept implication, the first is asset valuation. Asset valuation, what concept says? This means क्योंकि हमने going concern concept follow किया है तो it means हम assets को उनके historical cost पे mention करेंगे. This is the major implication of going concern concept. हिस्टोरिकल कॉस्ट मीन्स हम उसको जो करंट उसकी जो हिस्टोरिकल वैल्यू है उसके ऊपर हम उसको वैल्यू करेंगे, ना कि हम उसको फेयर सेलिंग प्राइस पे वैल्यू करेंगे। सिमिलरली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट लाइबिलिटीज, क्योंकि हम कह रहे हैं कि हमारा बिजनेस लंबा चलेगा, इट विल एज्यूम, सो वी विल एज्यूम दैट लाइबिलिटीज, वी विल पे दीज लाइबिलिटीज इन द नियर फ्यूचर, इन द कमिंग टाइम, सो वी विल record these items in the business because we expect that these are to be paid in near future. Now, the next one is income recognition. Now, going concern concepts, another implication is income recognition. This means we talk about that revenue is to be recognized when it is earned, and expenses are to be recognized when the expenses are incurred. So, as we are assuming that business will continue to operate, so even if cash is paid or cash is received, it is paid or received or not, the income is to be recognized. Again, this is based on going concern concept. Now let's look into the example. ABC Limited has faced a temporarily downturn in the sale due to economic conditions, but it has a plan to launch a new marketing campaign. Business में डाउनफॉल है, बट ये एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा है कि वो एक नया मार्केटिंग कैंपेन जो है वो स्टार्ट करेंगे अपनी सेल्स को बूस्ट करने के लिए. Now, despite the current downturn, ABC Limited's management believe that business will recover and continue operating based on historical performance. हमने क्या assume किया कि business जो है वो recover करेगा और अपनी जो परफॉर्मेंस है उसको इम्प्रूव करेगा. सो हमने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनानी है एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर. So this in the expectations of the continuity, क्योंकि हमने expect किया है कि हमारा business जो है वो continue करेगा. So we are preparing our financial statements on the basis of a going concern concept. Next concept that we have is the cost concept. What the cost concept says, that all the assets that should be recorded and reported in the financial statements at their acquisition cost or at the historical cost rather than their current market value. So what this concept says, that transactions are to be recorded at acquisition cost or historical cost. हम उसको करंट मार्केट वैल्यू या रिप्लेसमेंट कॉस्ट पे रिकॉर्ड नहीं करेंगे. किस पे रिकॉर्ड करेंगे? एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट या फिर उसकी हिस्टोरिकल कॉस्ट में. राइट. सो बेसिक ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू एंश्योर रिलायबिलिटी and objectivity in the financial reporting. Now, what are the major implications of cost concept? As we are saying that all the transactions are to be recorded at their historical cost. So in the balance sheet, we will record all the assets at their acquisition cost, and not at the market value. Similarly, we will charge depreciation every year. And what is the depreciation? We assume that asset, little bit portion of the cost is allocated as an expense over the useful life of the asset. For example, cost of the asset is 50,000 and we assume that life is 5 years. So we assume that every year 10,000 is to be depreciated. So we will charge depreciation because of this cost concept. And similarly, subsequent measurement will be done. For example, in future, we add some significant repair to this particular asset, right? So that, suppose the cost of that repair is again 10,000. So what we will do, we will add this 10,000 into the written down value of the asset and we will treat it as a cost, not as expense, right? So this is the major implication of the cost concept, that assets are to be recorded at the cost, depreciation is to be charged every year, and subsequent measurement of the significant repair which can increase the useful life of the asset, that is to be added in the cost and is not to be treated as an expense. I hope this concept is clear to you. Let's go through an example. ABC company, they buys a new manufacturing machine for rupees 50,000. They bought it for 50,000. and machine is essential for production process and is expected to contribute to the company's operations for the several years. So what cost concept says that machine should be recorded at rupees 50,000, that is at its historical cost. Now next comes to the dual aspect concept. As the name is suggesting, what a dual concept is saying? Dual concept is saying two aspects. Dual means two aspects. So what this concept says that every transaction, every financial transaction has two sides, two effects. One is debit, the other one is credit, or you can say the both sides are having the same amount. These are having the same amount, right? So this dual aspect concept says that every transaction has two effects. One is debit, other is credit with the equal amount, right? And both are to be recorded in at least two different accounts. Reason, if one is paying, other is receiving. If one is getting, the other is sacrificing. So two accounts will be affected. Now, what are the major implication of this particular concept? That after recording the transaction, the total debits should be equal to the total credits. And as our accounting equation says that assets are always equal to liabilities plus equities. So, this dual aspect concept will either increase the asset side and the liability plus equity side, or it will offset one side, like asset. Suppose I am saying that asset is purchased, machinery is purchased by paying rupees 10,000. So it will increase the machinery on the asset side and reduce the cash as well on the asset side. So it is affecting two accounts. One is machinery, other is cash. And of course with the same amount, one is going to debit, that is machinery increase हो रही है तो debit हो जाएगी, cash कम हो रहा है तो इसको हम credit करेंगे, as it's a real account and real account says that credit what goes out. Let's see an example. If a business purchases machinery and furniture rupees 25,000 and 5,000 respectively out of 40,000, which is the capital provided by the proprietor. So in this situation, assets should be equal to equities, that is assets में 25,000 और furniture में 5,000 ऐड हो जाएगा, और कैपिटल क्योंकि हमारी 40,000 थी जिसमें से 25,000 और 5,000 हमने यूज कर लिया, बाकी जो 10,000 है that is still with us as cash, right? So you can see the equation matches, that is asset side machinery, furniture and cash is equal to the capital, that is equal to 40,000.